I know you've felt it, that crushing weight in your chest. That night so long you thought the sun would never rise again. Sorrow tried to bury you. It whispered in your ear, this is the end, but hear me. Look me in the eyes. This is now at the end. Because there is a fire inside you, a joy the darkness cannot kill. And tonight, you're going to learn how to unleash it. Sorrow doesn't knock politely. It storms in without warning, shattering your plans, breaking your rhythm. But the truth is this, your joy was never built on comfort. It was built on the rock of something greater. And when the winds of sorrow blow, when the rains fall, that joy, that unshakable joy stands. I'm not talking about shallow happiness that disappears when trouble comes. I'm talking about the joy that is born in the fire, forged in the furnace of your hardest days. The joy that looks sorrow in the face and says, you will not have me. You will not own me. You see, your sorrow is proof you've loved deeply, fought hard, lived fully. But joy is proof that you're still here. And if you're still here, your story isn't finished. LCDT you may have scars. You may have tears still running down your face. But you also have a choice to stand even when it hurts. To smile even when your heart aches. Because joy is not weakness, it's your weapon. And the moment you choose joy in the middle of sorrow, that's the moment you win. So rise up. Let your joy burn so bright that it blinds the darkness. Your night is ending, your morning is coming, and nothing, hear me now, can stop the joy that conquers sorrow. Joy is often misunderstood. People think it's a soft feeling, a light-hearted mood that shows up when life is good and the skies are clear. They mistake it for laughter at a party, for a peaceful walk on a perfect day, for that warm satisfaction when everything lines up the way you wanted. That's happiness, and happiness is fragile. It comes and goes depending on what's happening around you. But joy is something else entirely. Joy is not the absence of pain. In fact, true joy doesn't wait for the pain to leave before it arrives. It is forged in the middle of the trial, like a diamond under pressure, like a warrior in the heat of battle. It is the strength that rises when you should be collapsing, the light that burns when the darkness thinks it's won. There are moments in life when pain wraps itself around you so tightly you can hardly breathe. A phone call in the middle of the night, a betrayal you never saw coming, the quiet emptiness after a loss so deep it steals your appetite, your sleep, even your will to move. The world doesn't stop spinning for your heartbreak. The bills keep coming, the deadlines keep looming, people still expect you to show up, to smile, to keep it together. And in that moment, it's easy to think that joy is a luxury for someone else, someone untouched by the sharp edges of life. But that's not the truth. The truth is that joy was made for moments like this. Joy is not a feeling that floats to you on the breeze when life is sweet. It is a decision you make when the ground shakes under your feet. Pain will try to convince you that you've been robbed. It will tell you that you can't move forward until the ache is gone, that you can't smile until things are better, that you can't breathe until you understand why this happened. But if you wait for pain to leave before you allow joy in, you may be waiting for the rest of your life. You see, life is a mixture of mountains and valleys, sunrises and storms. If you only give yourself permission to live in joy when everything is perfect, you'll spend most of your days waiting instead of living. Real joy doesn't deny the pain, it defies it. It stands there shoulder to shoulder with your grief and says, we're not quitting, we're still standing. When you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing after the kind of joy that depends on circumstances, and you start cultivating the kind of joy that grows roots deep inside your soul. This joy can't be stolen by a bad report from the doctor. It can't be shaken by the loss of a job. It can't be silenced by someone else's opinion. Because it's not built on the shifting sands of your situation. It's built on a rock that does not move. And once you've experienced that kind of joy, you realize it's not just something nice to have, it's essential for survival. I've seen people walking through fire with a quiet smile on their faces, not because the fire didn't hurt, but because they knew the flames couldn't consume them. I've seen mothers bury their children and still stand to testify of the goodness of God. I've seen men lose everything they've worked for and still speak words of gratitude. That's joy. It doesn't erase the tears, but it gives you the courage to wipe them and keep going. It doesn't make you numb to the pain, but it keeps you from drowning in it. The world will tell you to avoid pain at all costs, to run from it, to medicate it, to distract yourself until it passes. But avoiding pain is not the same as living in joy. Pain is a part of being alive, but joy is what makes life worth living. And here's the thing, pain will always test you, but it will also reveal you. It will show you what's inside, what you truly believe, what you lean on when everything else falls apart. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can let pain define you, or you can let joy refine you. Choosing joy doesn't mean pretending the hurt isn't real. It doesn't mean smiling while your heart is breaking and acting like everything is fine. That's not joy, that's denial. Real joy looks pain in the eyes and says, "You may visit me, but you will not live here. You may press me, but you will not crush me. You may hurt me, but you will not have me." It's the courage to stand in the middle of the storm and believe that the sun will shine again. It's the faith to believe that your story isn't over, even when every page you've turned lately has been written in tears. And joy, when chosen in the middle of pain, has a strange power. It changes how you carry yourself. It gives you a posture of strength. It makes you look the enemy in the face and remind him that you are still here, that you are still breathing, that you are still fighting. It's a quiet defiance that confuses those who expect you to crumble. It's a resilience that inspires those watching from the sidelines, because someone somewhere is watching you to see if it's possible to survive what you're going through. And when they see you choose joy, even in the fire, it gives them permission to believe that maybe they can too. Sometimes joy doesn't come with shouting and singing. Sometimes it comes in the stillness, when you take a deep breath in the middle of chaos and say, "Thank you, God, that I am still here." It's in the small victories, the morning you get out of bed after days of staying under the covers, the moment you laugh unexpectedly even though you didn't think you could anymore, the time you reach out to help someone else even while you're still healing. Those small acts are the seeds of joy, and when you keep planting them, they grow into something unstoppable. Pain will pass. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but seasons change. What stays is what you build in the middle of it. If you build bitterness, that's what you'll be left with. If you build hopelessness, you'll carry it long after the storm is over. But if you build joy, real grounded, unshakable joy, then when the pain passes, you'll rise stronger than before, ready for whatever comes next. So don't wait for the pain to leave before you let joy in. Invite it now, right here, right in the mess and the questions and the tears. Let it be your strength. Let it be your fire. Because the truth is, joy is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of power in the middle of it. And when you find that kind of joy, you don't just survive the sorrow, you conquer it. There are moments in life when sorrow feels like it has unpacked its bags and moved in for good. It sits in the corner of your room, in the back of your mind, in the pit of your stomach. It follows you into the grocery store, into the quiet of the night, into conversations where you paste on a smile but feel that hollow ache inside. It whispers lies in your ear, telling you this is it, that nothing will change, that you will live under this heavy cloud for the rest of your days. But that is not the truth. Sorrow is not permanent. It is a temporary season, a long night that will always, always give way to the morning. The problem with seasons is that when you're in the middle of one, it can feel endless. Winter feels like it will never let go of the earth's throat when the wind is bitter and the days are short. But no matter how fierce winter seems, it cannot stop spring from coming. In the same way, your season of sorrow cannot stop joy from breaking through. You may not see the sunrise yet, but it's already on its way. Even now, behind the curtain of the dark sky, the light is preparing to appear. Sorrow is loud, but the morning is faithful. And when you understand that, you stop letting your present pain trick you into believing it will last forever. Sorrow has a way of convincing you to measure your life by the weight you're carrying instead of the hope ahead of you. You wake up each day thinking about the loss, the setback, the betrayal, and before you even take your first step, it feels like you've already been defeated. But the truth is, this heaviness you feel is not your destiny. It's not your permanent address. It's a stop on your journey, not the final destination. And every step you take, even the smallest one, brings you closer to the dawn. The night is often the coldest just before the morning breaks. That's when the shadows seem deepest and the silence seems most suffocating. It's in those moments you're tempted to give up, to decide that the night is already won. But if you can hold on a little longer, if you can keep breathing, keep moving, keep believing when everything around you says it's hopeless, then you will see what the night was trying to hide from you, the beauty of a new day. The enemy of your soul wants you to believe that this is permanent, because if you believe it's permanent, you'll stop fighting. But the truth is, every season changes. No night, no matter how dark, has ever been able to stop the morning from coming. Sometimes the morning doesn't look like what you expected. It might not erase every trace of what you've been through. The scars may remain, the memories might still sting, but the light changes how you see them. In the light of morning, what felt like the end becomes a chapter, not the whole book. In the light of morning, the things that once broke you now become proof of what you survived. You begin to see that the night didn't destroy you, it shaped you. And the very pain you thought would kill you becomes part of the strength that carries you forward. It's easy to get stuck in the night when you start believing it's the only reality. That's why perspective matters. You have to remind yourself daily, sometimes moment by moment, that this is a season and seasons change. When the cold of winter bites into your bones, you know it won't last forever. You trust the unseen rhythm of the earth. In the same way, you must trust the unseen hand of God in your life. He has promised that weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. The night might be long, but it is not endless. The sun is already moving toward you. If you've ever watched the sun rise, you know it starts small. A thin line of gold at the edge of the horizon. Then a slow flood of light. The darkness doesn't vanish all at once. It retreats little by little until it has no place left to hide. That's how the morning comes into your soul, too. You may not feel an explosion of joy all at once. It might start as a small flicker of hope, a single thought that maybe, just maybe, things could change. Don't despise that small beginning. That flicker is proof the night is losing its grip. Feed it. Protect it. Hold on to it until it grows into a fire. Some seasons of sorrow will test you so deeply that you'll wonder if you're even the same person anymore. And in truth, you won't be. You'll be changed, but that's not always a bad thing. You'll come out of the night with a new understanding of your strength, a deeper compassion for others, and a clearer vision of what truly matters. Morning doesn't erase the night, it redeems it. What once was your prison becomes your platform. The same pain that once silenced you becomes the story that inspires someone else to hold on through their own long night. You might be asking, but how do I make it to the morning? You keep walking. You take the next step, even if it's trembling. You breathe one more breath, even if it's heavy. You speak one more prayer, even if it's only a whisper. You keep showing up, even when you feel like disappearing. Because the morning is not for those who quit. It's for those who endure. It's for those who believe that the promise of light is worth pushing through the darkness. And here's the mystery. Sometimes, while you're waiting for the morning, you become the light. You may not feel like it, but your resilience, your faith, your decision to keep going in spite of everything becomes a beacon for someone else still lost in their own night. They see you and think, if they can survive it, maybe I can too. That's the power of enduring through a season of sorrow. It doesn't just change you, it changes the people who witness your fight. So no matter how heavy the night feels, don't mistake it for forever. This season is passing even if it moves slower than you want. The night cannot stop the earth from turning, and your sorrow cannot stop the promise of joy from finding you. There will come a day when you wake up and realize the heaviness has lifted. The air will smell different. The colors will seem brighter. And you will remember this night, not as the moment that broke you, but as the moment you refused to break. The sun is coming. The morning is moving toward you, even now. And when it comes, you will rise with it, not the same as before, but stronger, wiser, and more alive than you ever imagined. So hold on. The night may be long, but it is not eternal. Sorrow is a temporary season, and joy is already on the horizon. There comes a point in life when you realize that joy is not something you stumble upon by accident. It's not just a mood that happens when circumstances line up in your favor. Joy, the kind that sustains you through storms, the kind that holds you steady when the ground is shaking, is unlocked by one thing: faith. Faith is the key that opens the door to joy, because joy isn't built on what you see, it's built on what you believe. When you trust in God's unchanging promises, you carry something inside of you that the world can't take away. It's not wishful thinking, not blind optimism. It's a deep-rooted confidence that no matter how fierce the battle, God's word will stand and his hand will hold you. Faith changes how you see everything. Without faith, the storm looks like the end. With faith, the storm becomes a passage to a new beginning. Without faith, the valley feels like a grave. With faith, the valley is just the road to the mountaintop. Without faith, the night feels endless. With faith, you're already watching for the sunrise. Faith lifts your eyes from the problem to the promise. And when you lock your heart onto that promise, joy flows. Not because the pain is gone, but because you know it will not have the last word. You stand in the middle of the chaos and declare, God is still in control, and that is enough for me. God's promises are not fragile words that crumble under pressure. They are not emotional speeches that fade when reality hits. They are eternal, immovable, unshakable truths. When he says he will never leave you, he means it. When he says he will work all things together for your good, he means it. When he says the plans he has for you are to give you hope and a future, he means it. These are not just comforting verses to read in peaceful moments. They are lifelines in the darkest hours. They are anchors that keep you from being swept away when the current of life is pulling hard against you. And when you trust those promises, joy begins to rise, not because you understand how it will all work out, but because you believe the one who holds your future. Faith is not the denial of reality. It's the refusal to let reality have the final say. You can acknowledge the mountain in front of you and still believe it can be moved. You can admit that the pain is real and still trust that healing is coming. You can look at the loss and still believe that God can bring restoration. Faith doesn't erase the struggle, it transforms your posture in the struggle. Instead of despair, you walk with expectation. Instead of fear, you walk with courage. Instead of giving up, you keep pressing forward because you know your story isn't over yet. There's something powerful that happens when you choose to believe God's promises even when everything around you says otherwise. Heaven leans in, your spirit strengthens. The enemy loses ground. You may still be in the same place physically, but spiritually you've shifted, and that shift brings joy. That joy is not a shallow smile to convince others you're fine. It's the deep, unshakable peace that says, I know my Redeemer lives. I know He is faithful. I know I am not forgotten. That kind of joy confuses the enemy because he can't figure out why you're still standing, still praising, still moving forward. It's because your joy isn't tied to your circumstances. It's tied to your God. Faith is active. It's not just saying you believe. It's living like you believe. It's waking up each day and making choices that align with the truth you've embraced. It's praying when you don't feel like praying. It's speaking life when negativity wants to pour out. It's forgiving when bitterness feels justified. It's walking in obedience when it would be easier to do your own thing. And every time you take a step of faith, even a small one, joy grows. Because faith reminds you that you're not walking alone. And that reminder is a wellspring of strength. The enemy will always attack your faith because if he can steal that, he can steal your joy. He'll try to plant seeds of doubt. He'll whisper, if God really loved you, why would He let this happen? He'll twist your focus so you fixate on what's missing instead of what's promised. But you fight back with the Word of God. You remind yourself of every time He's come through before. You rehearse His goodness in your mind until it drowns out the lies. You keep your eyes fixed on the one who has never failed you. And as you do, faith rises again, unlocking the joy that sorrow tried to bury. Joy born from faith is dangerous to the enemy because it's not easily shaken. It doesn't crumble when the job falls through. It doesn't disappear when friends walk away. It doesn't vanish when the diagnosis isn't what you prayed for. Instead, it stands firm, anchored in the unchanging truth of God's character. Even when you don't have all the answers, you rest in the one who does. That rest, deep in your soul, is joy. Faith isn't just for the good days. It's forged in the hard days. You don't learn to trust God's promises when the waters are calm. You learn in the storm. You learn when the winds are screaming and the waves are high and your boat feels like it's about to break apart. It's there that you discover He is who He says He is. And when you come out of that storm and look back, you'll see it. He was faithful. He was present. He was guiding you even when you couldn't feel Him. That realization plants joy so deep inside of you that nothing can uproot it. You might be standing in the middle of uncertainty right now. You might be staring at a future that feels unclear, a problem that feels unsolvable, a night that feels too long. But lift your eyes, remember the promises. Remember the one who spoke the stars into place, the one who calls you by name, the one who has carried you before and will carry you again. He has not changed. His word has not failed. And if you will hold on to that truth, you will find joy rising in you, not because the storm is over, but because you know it won't last forever and you are not facing it alone. Faith unlocks joy because faith shifts your focus from what's breaking to what's unbreakable. It reminds you that God's promises are more solid than your pain, more lasting than your loss, more certain than your fear. And when you live in that reality, you carry a joy that nothing in this world can touch. It becomes your strength, your shield, your song in the night. It becomes the proof to yourself and to everyone watching that your hope is not fragile. It's anchored in eternity. Life will hand you moments you never saw coming. One phone call, one unexpected conversation, one sudden turn, and everything you thought was certain can come crashing down. In those moments, you will feel the sting of disappointment, the ache of loss, the weight of grief. You may not be able to control the events that crash into your life, but you always have a choice about how you see them. Your perspective is your power. Circumstances can break your heart, yes, but they cannot break your spirit unless you let them. That decision is yours, and it is one of the most important choices you will ever make. Perspective doesn't mean pretending the pain isn't real. It doesn't mean calling the bad days good or acting like the wounds don't hurt. It means choosing to see the bigger picture, even when your eyes are blurred with tears. It means deciding where you will fix your focus on the weight of the moment or on the possibilities that still remain. Two people can walk through the same valley and come out completely different because one saw only darkness while the other kept searching for the light. The valley didn't decide that, their perspective did. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond. That's the difference between living defeated and living victorious. Some people let a single moment define their whole identity, carrying it like a label for the rest of their lives. Others take that same moment and use it as a turning point, the chapter where the story shifts and a new strength emerges. Your spirit is far more resilient than you realize, but it needs you to guard it. If you give sorrow full permission to dictate your vision, it will shrink your world down to the size of your pain. But if you keep your eyes on something greater, on hope, on faith, on the unshakable truth that God is still writing your story, your spirit will remain unbroken no matter how fierce the storm. Every day you have to decide what you will magnify. If you magnify the problem, it will dominate your thoughts, consume your energy, and drain your joy. But if you magnify the promise, if you choose to meditate on God's goodness, on His faithfulness, on the times He has brought you through before, you will find strength rising inside of you even when the situation hasn't changed yet. That's the power of perspective. It doesn't just react to your circumstances, it reshapes your reality from the inside out. Sometimes choosing the right perspective means refusing to settle into the role of the victim. You may have been wrong. You may have been hurt in ways you didn't deserve. You may have endured losses that were unfair. But staying in that mindset will keep you chained to the very thing you want freedom from. When you shift your perspective, you move from "this happened to me" to "this happened for me to grow, to learn, to become stronger." That doesn't make the wrong right, but it robs the wrong of its power to control your future. There's a story written in every trial, and you get to decide how it ends. You can let the ending be about defeat, or you can let it be about redemption. Perspective is the pen in your hand. Some of the greatest victories in life are born out of moments that looked like certain defeat, because someone refused to let their spirit be broken. They decided to see opportunity where others saw disaster. They chose to believe that even in the ashes, there was something worth building again. Your heart will break at times. That's part of living fully. Loving deeply, dreaming boldly, investing yourself in people and purposes. These all carry risk. And when those things don't go as planned, it hurts. But a broken heart doesn't have to mean a broken spirit. A broken heart says you cared. A broken spirit says you quit caring. That's the line you must guard with everything you have. You can feel pain and still move forward. You can shed tears and still stand tall. You can acknowledge loss and still claim victory. That's perspective, acknowledging reality while refusing to let it define you. It's easy to focus on what you've lost, but perspective challenges you to focus on what remains. If you've lost a relationship, you still have the ability to love again. If you've lost a job, you still have skills, experiences, and a mind capable of learning. If you've lost a dream, you still have the capacity to dream in you. Perspective turns your attention to the seeds still in your hand instead of the harvest that's gone. And when you plant those seeds in faith, they will grow into something beautiful, even if it's different from what you expected. The enemy of your soul wants you to believe that your situation has the final word, that the heartbreak you feel now is the end of your story. But the truth is, perspective rooted in faith refuses to accept that lie. It says, yes, this hurts. Yes, I would have chosen a different path if I could. But I believe that God can work this together for good, and I'm going to live like I believe it. That kind of perspective not only preserves your spirit, it strengthens it. It gives you resilience that no setback can take away. One of the most dangerous things you can do is let your circumstances define your worth. If you measure your value by your bank account, your relationship status, your career, or your health, then when those things change, and they will, your sense of worth will crumble. But if your perspective is anchored in who God says you are, then no loss, no failure, no rejection can strip that away. You are still chosen, still loved, still called, still equipped. That perspective keeps your spirit unbreakable because it is tied to a truth that does not change. When you face a challenge, ask yourself, what will I focus on? Will you focus on the size of the problem or the size of your God? Will you see the obstacle or the opportunity? Will you dwell on what's gone or give thanks for what's still here? Your answers will determine not just how you feel in the moment, but how you emerge from the trial. People with the same circumstances can live completely different lives because of the perspective they choose every single day. You can't always stop the waves from crashing, but you can learn to surf them. That's perspective. The same storm that sinks some ships carries others to a new shore. The difference is not in the storm, it's in the sailor, and you, my friend, are the sailor. You get to choose whether you will be sunk by what has happened or propelled forward by it. That choice happens in the mind, in the heart, in the quiet place where you decide, this will not break me, At the end of the day, perspective is not about denying your pain. It's about declaring your hope. It's the decision to look at your present through the lens of God's promises rather than the lens of fear. It's saying, I may not understand this now, but I know I'm not walking alone. I know there's more ahead. I know this is not the end. That decision will keep your spirit alive and strong no matter what life throws your way. The truth is, life will break your heart more than once. But if you guard your perspective, if you choose to see with eyes of faith, your spirit will stand tall in every season. Circumstances may change, but your perspective can remain anchored, and when your spirit stays unbroken, no storm can stop you. Everyone wants the mountaintop moments, the victories that the whole world can see, the celebrations after the battle is won, the days when everything feels light and easy. But the truth is, most victories aren't won on the mountaintop, they're forged in the valley. The valley is where you face your hardest battles, where your faith is tested, where the shadows seem longer and the climb feels endless, and yet it's in that low place where the seeds of your greatest testimony are planted. Joy is the weapon that carries you through that valley and turns your trial into a story worth telling. Without joy, the valley will crush you. With joy, the valley becomes the place where you learn to stand, fight, and win. The valley is not a comfortable place. It's where uncertainty whispers in your ear, where fear tries to take root, where you are tempted to believe that this is where your journey ends. You look up and the mountains on either side seem too high, too steep, too far. You feel small, you feel exposed, you feel surrounded, and in those moments, joy might seem like the last thing you can find. But joy in the valley isn't about feeling good. It's about holding on to something that the valley can't take from you. It's about making a decision every day to fight with the strength that comes from knowing you're not walking alone. Joy in the valley doesn't mean you ignore the hardship. It means you choose to face it with a spirit that refuses to be broken. It's a weapon, and like any weapon, you have to pick it up and wield it. The enemy wants you to believe that joy is impossible in hard times, because if he can strip you of your joy, he can weaken your resolve. He can make you think you've already lost before the fight is even over. But joy says, I know the battle is fierce, but I also know the victory is already promised. That changes how you move, how you speak, how you see the path ahead. You stop walking like someone who's defeated and start walking like someone who knows the outcome will work in their favor. The valley will try to take your focus. It will wave distractions in your face, fear, doubt, bitterness, regret. If you let those things take root, they will drain your energy and steal your vision. Joy protects you from that. Joy keeps your eyes on the purpose in your pain, on the God who walks with you, on the truth that this valley is not the end of the road. You start to see the valley differently, not as a prison, but as a training ground. Every step you take there, every moment you keep moving forward when you feel like giving up, is building something inside you that the mountaintop could never teach. Some of the most powerful testimonies you'll ever hear don't from people who never faced hardship. They come from people who faced it head on, armed with joy, and came out stronger. They tell of nights they thought they wouldn't survive, and yet here they are. They tell of prayers they prayed in desperation and how God met them in the middle of the mess. They tell of moments they chose to lift their hands in praise when every part of them wanted to collapse in despair. That's what makes a testimony powerful. It's not just about the victory itself, but about the way you carried yourself in the fight. And joy is what makes that possible. There's something unexplainable about the kind of joy that lives in the valley. It's not loud or flashy. Sometimes it's quiet, like a steady flame that refuses to go out no matter how hard the wind blows. It's a smile through tears, a song in the dark, a prayer in the middle of the storm. That kind of joy is evidence that your hope is rooted in something deeper than circumstances. It's a declaration that says, you can take the comfort, you can take the ease, you can take the certainty, but you cannot take my joy. And if you can't take my joy, you can't take my victory. You may not realize it now, but the valley is shaping you. It's preparing you for the places you're going next. The strength you're building here will be the strength you draw on in the battles ahead. The compassion you learn here will make you a source of comfort for someone else in their valley. The faith you develop here will be the anchor that keeps you steady when the storms return. And the joy you hold on to here will be the proof that God's goodness isn't limited to the mountaintop. It's present in the lowest places too. Sometimes the valley is where you learn to depend on God in a way you never did before. On the mountaintop, it's easy to feel strong, self-sufficient, in control. But in the valley, when you've come to the end of yourself, you discover that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. And when you lean into that truth, joy begins to rise, not because the valley is easy, but because you realize you're not walking through it in your own power. You are being carried, sustained, and guided by the one who has already overcome. When you finally emerge from the valley, you won't be the same person who entered it. You'll carry scars, but they won't be signs of defeat. They'll be marks of survival, proof of battles fought and won. Your testimony will be richer, fuller, more powerful, because it will carry the weight of authenticity. You won't just be telling people that joy works in hard times. You'll be living proof of it. And when you speak, others will listen, because they'll see in your eyes that you've been where they are, and you know the way through. The beauty of a testimony born in the valley is that it doesn't just glorify your endurance, it glorifies the one who walked with you. People will look at your story and see that your victory wasn't because you were strong enough, smart enough, or lucky enough. It was because your joy stayed anchored in a God who never left you, never stopped fighting for you, and never failed you. And that's the kind of testimony that changes lives, because it points people not just to what you did, but to who He is. So if you find yourself in a valley right now, don't throw down your weapon. Don't let sorrow convince you that the fight is over. Lift your head, grip your joy like the weapon it is. Every time you choose to smile in the face of the storm, you swing that weapon. Every time you choose to give thanks for one more day, you swing that weapon. Every time you choose to trust God's promises instead of the enemy's lies, you swing that weapon. And the more you swing it, the closer you get to victory. One day, you will stand on the mountaintop again, and when you do, you'll look back at this valley not with bitterness, but with gratitude. You'll see how it shaped you, how it deepened your faith, how it sharpened your vision, and you'll realize that the valley wasn't the end of your story. It was the place where your testimony was born. Joy made it possible. Joy turned the trial into triumph. Joy turned the pain into purpose. And joy will carry you through every valley you'll ever face again. Joy is never meant to be kept to yourself. True joy refuses to be contained. It overflows, spills out, and touches the people around you, whether you realize it or not. The kind of joy we're talking about isn't a shallow, momentary feeling that depends on everything going right in your life. It's the deep, unshakable joy that is rooted in faith and hope, in the unchanging truth that God is still in control no matter what's happening around you. When you carry that kind of joy, it becomes contagious. It becomes a light in dark places, a warmth in cold seasons, a spark that ignites courage in others who are trapped in sorrow. You might not think your joy matters to anyone but you, but the truth is someone else's breakthrough may be waiting on you to live it out loud. When you choose joy in the middle of hardship, people notice. They may not say anything, but they watch. They see you walk through storms without losing your peace. They see you face loss and disappointment without becoming bitter. They see you keep praising, keep believing, keep smiling when it would be easier to give up. And something stirs inside them, a question, a hope, a realization that maybe, just maybe, they could do the same. That's the power of joy. It's not about pretending you don't feel pain or ignoring reality. It's about living in such a way that your hope becomes visible, tangible, and undeniable to the people who need it most. You never know who's watching you right now. It could be a friend who feels like they're drowning in grief. It could be a coworker who's carrying a burden they've told no one about. It could be a family member who's wondering if life is even worth living anymore. They may never ask for help out loud, but your joy could be the lifeline that keeps them from sinking. The courage you show in choosing joy might give them the courage to take one more step, breathe one more prayer, or hold on for one more day. Your joy can be the evidence they need that life after sorrow is possible. There's a reason why joy is such a powerful force in the kingdom. It multiplies. When you walk into a room with true joy, you shift the atmosphere, you break tension, you ease heaviness. You remind people of what's still good and worth fighting for. That doesn't mean you're always loud or energetic. Sometimes the most contagious joy is quiet and steady, like a calm voice in the middle of chaos. It reassures people that the storm won't last forever. It tells them they are not alone. It shows them that peace is possible even before the battle is over. Some people think joy is just for the strong, but that's not true. Joy is for the weak who choose to believe in something stronger than themselves. Joy is for the weary who refuse to stop walking. Joy is for the broken who trust that God can still bring beauty from ashes. And when you live with that kind of joy, you give others permission to do the same. Your life becomes a testimony without you ever saying a word. People begin to ask, how do you still have joy after everything you've been through? And in that moment, you have the chance to point them to the source, not to your own strength, but to the one who never fails. The world is full of sorrow. It's full of bad news, disappointments, and losses that can make joy feel impossible. That's why living in joy is such a radical act. It goes against everything the world expects from someone who's been through pain. Sorrow says, stay down. Joy says, get up. Sorrow says, it's over. Joy says, this is just the beginning. Sorrow says, hide your heart so it won't get hurt again. Joy says, open it wide because love is still worth it. When you live in joy, you're not just surviving, you're declaring war on hopelessness. And that declaration has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see. Think about the times in your life when someone else's joy gave you strength. Maybe it was a leader who stayed calm in a crisis. Maybe it was a friend who made you laugh when you didn't think you could smile again. Maybe it was a stranger who showed you kindness when your day was falling apart. Those moments stick with you. They remind you that joy is possible, even in the darkest times. Now imagine how many people could say the same about you if you chose to carry joy everywhere you go. Imagine the silent battles you could help someone win just by refusing to let your joy die. Choosing joy is not about denying your pain. It's about deciding that your pain won't control your life. And when others see you making that choice day after day, they learn something important. They can make that choice too. They may not believe it the first time they see it. They may think you're just lucky or faking it. But if you keep living it consistently, if you keep showing up with joy no matter what, they will begin to believe. And when they believe, they will begin to change. That's how your joy becomes their breakthrough. God never intended for your joy to be a private possession. He meant for it to be a light on a hill, a candle in the window, a fire in the cold. When you share that light, intentionally or just by living authentically, you become a part of someone else's healing. Your story becomes a bridge for them to walk across from despair to hope. Your testimony becomes proof that sorrow doesn't have the final word. And your joy becomes an invitation for them to join you on the journey toward freedom. There will be days when you don't feel like your joy is making any difference. You'll wonder if anyone even notices. You'll be tempted to let the heaviness of the world steal it from you. That's when you need to remember this. You may never see all the lives your joy touches. You may never know all the people who kept going because of the way you lived. But heaven sees it. God sees it. And every seed of joy you plant in someone else's heart will bear fruit in its time. Some of that fruit will grow in places you'll never visit, in people you'll never meet, but it will still be part of your legacy. Your joy is more than a feeling. It's a gift. It's a weapon. It's a shield. And it's a spark that can start a wildfire of hope in the hearts of others. Don't underestimate its power. Don't let the enemy convince you it's pointless. Don't hide it away out of fear that others won't understand. Live it, share it. Let it overflow until it touches every life around you. Because the truth is, someone is waiting to see that it's possible to rise above sorrow. And your joy might be the sign they've been praying for. And when they see it in you, they'll begin to believe it can live in them too. And that's when sorrow loses and victory begins to spread far beyond what you can ever imagine.